007 First Light feels like a bold attempt to give players a proper James Bond origin story. Cinematic, smart, and built to let you play your way. After seeing what it's got in store, and what immediately stood out was how alive the world seemed like. IO Interactive Glacier's engine renders stunning vistas and crowded, believable spaces. Walking through the hotel lobby or a gala, and it just feels like a real place full of people with agendas, which is exactly the vibe of a Bond game that should have. At its core, First Light is designed around what IO calls the creative approach. Objectives you can reach however way you want, and the demo missions show in the state of play highlights that. One mission takes place at the high-stakes chess tournament in Slovakia, another in the infiltration of the lavish Kensington Gala, and there's even a high-altitude showdown. In the state of play demo, the hotel infiltration alone can be handled in 5, perhaps even 6 distinct ways. From slipping in unnoticed to engineering distractions and going loud. The game just encourages improvisation, turn environmental items into tools, exploit NPCs' routines, or perhaps hack systems to open routes. It blends the deliberate sandbox of Hitman with a cinematic, story-driven structure that leans into the big set pieces. So now, story-wise, you play as quite a very young Bond, 26 and the youngest ever in this timeline. He's fresh into the job, arriving late to the program where his colleagues already have experience. His mentor, John Greenway, I believe his name, is skeptical and keeps him on the periphery. Bond stars as a driver, but his curiosity and instinct pushes him to break the protocol and investigate. That narrative framing works well with the gameplay systems. You're learning the ropes, but the game constantly rewards clever decisions and quick thinking. A central gameplay pillar is the instinct meter, shown of a lightning bolt icon on the screen. This feels when you complete objectives or neutralize enemies and can be spent on 3 distinct abilities. Focus slow time and improves shooting precision, so of course you can handle firefights cleanly. Lure lets you create kind of a sound or distractions to pull guards out of the position for silent takedown. Bluff is a conversational trick. If you're getting noticed, you can talk your way out of the suspicion to avoid creating a scene. Instinct is a limited resource, so balancing it when you use it versus when relying on gadgets or stealth is a meaningful choice. Gadgets are a major part of the Bond's toolkit, and they're integrated in practical ways. You can carry up to 4 gadgets into the mission, and your watch, the signature Q-issued device, must always occupy 1 slot. The watch hacks electronics and security systems, just highlighting the useful objects in the environment, and reveals clues. Other gadgets include a smoke device for stealth movement, a laser that can cut locks, blind or disarm enemies, or trigger environmental traps like dropping a chandelier. A flash mine that sticks to the object and stuns investigators, and a dart phone that shoots a chemical dart to incapacitate or sicken tougher targets. Gadgets use 2 resources types, batteries for the electronics and chemical bottles for consumable items like darts. You can scavenge both of these in restricted areas. Batteries can be found in the toolboxes, chemicals from the cleaning carts. So exploration and careful planning will definitely pay off. And there's no skill tree just for the upgrading gadgets, but new tools unlock as the story progresses. Cosmetics like special outfits exists, but offer no gameplay perks. A lot of the stealth DNA comes from the Hitman, but there are key differences. There's no full disguise system in First Light, so you can't simply don a uniform and walk anywhere. Instead, you rely on the environmental misdirection, eavesdropping on the NPC conversations for intel, seizing key cards, and using the watch to highlight interactable items. Important NPCs can be questioned. A doorman or perhaps a bartender might offer a shortcut, or you can even eavesdrop to learn routines. Some opponents are marked as a persons of interest. They can't be charmed and will call reinforcements if they spot you. And the game also includes a fake surrender option. If a target is isolated, you can raise your hands, approach slowly, and then, take them down. If other enemies surround them, the trick fails and you likely end up fighting. Now, combat mixes precision shooting with close quarter brutality. Bond can parry, punch, throw opponents into the environments, and use objects as improvisations in terms of having those weapons, right? You can smash an enemy into a door, chunk someone off the ledge, or use the environmental to your advantage. Firearms are responsive, you have a trusted pistol, but you can also slot enemies' guns that use them with a slick animation. And when an enemy pulls a gun, the game grants a license to kill, your green light to go loud. Focus from the instinct meter helps in these moments by slowing down time for accurate shots. Some enemies wear armor and require heavier weapons, but you can also use environmental tricks like, dropping heavy objects or detonating barrels to deal with them. Replayability is backed in. The developers confirm you will also be able to replay story chapters so you can test different approaches, and mission-specific challenges likely unlock outfits and other rewards. Collectibles will be present, though the studio kept details quite vague. Now, there are also 3 different levels, such as a story, basically a default mode as well, and a purist, which tightens both stealth and combat for players who want a stiffer challenge. Presentation-wise, First Light hits the right notes. The Glacier engine gives the environmental weight and life, crowded behavior, set dressing, and lighting creates believable locations. IO has lined up strong casts, for example like Patrick Gibson is actually James Bond in this game. There are a few rough edges that are noticed in this sort of a preview build. Performances needed polishing in places, but the team is clearly aware and working on the optimization. The game includes scripted, linear set pieces, car chases, and outwardly cinematic sequences that feel more like a sort of an established Bond moments than open gameplay. But they fit the tone and offer a variety between sandbox level, kind of like this sorts, and overall the First Light looks to be a solid mix of stealth planning, gadget-driven improvisation, and a cinematic spectacle. 007 First Light is scheduled to release on March of 27th, 2026, and from what I have saw, it's shaping up as a strong modern take on Bond. Less about button mashing action and more about choices, tools, and quick thinking. If IO nails performance and polishes the systems that they showcased, this could be the best blend of Hitman-style sandbox stealth and big-budget cinematic storytelling that we've seen at least in the Bond game. Other than that, do let me know what you think about 007 First Light. Are you interested? Has it got you convinced from state of play? Are you curious to see more? Maybe you're having some second thoughts. Do let me know down in the comments. At that, thank you so much for watching, like and subscribe. I'll see you guys all, and have a wonderful day.